Yo, Shortbox Nation. Hello again. Welcome back, and thanks for pressing play today. If you're brand new, welcome to the show. My name is Botter, and this is the Shortbox Podcast, the comic book talk show that brings you the best conversations about your favorite comics with the creators that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making them. This is episode 469, and today we'll be joined by renowned comic book artist and award-winning cover artist, Mike Del Mundo. Mike has one of the most recognizable styles in comics today, known for his vivid art, creative storytelling, and concept-driven covers. He got to start in the big leagues working in 2010. He got to start in the big leagues in 2010 working for Marvel Comics, where he quickly gained recognition for creating captivating covers for comics like X-Men Legacy, Kang the Conqueror, and he provided covers for the Eisner Award-winning series The Vision with Tom King and Gabriel Hernandez Walta, all of which led to interior and cover work on runs like Electro of Hayden Blackman, but that was quickly followed up with runs on Thor of Jason Aaron, Avengers of Mark Waid, and Weird World with Jason Aaron and Sam Humphries. Outside of Marvel, he's worked with just about every publisher under the sun, doing some incredible covers for Image Comics, IDW, Boom Studios, and most recently, you can find Mike's signature style gracing the front pages of some of your favorite DC comics like Wonder Woman and The Flash. And if time wasn't a factor, I promise you I could fill a 10-part podcast talking about all of Mike's bibliography and work within hip-hop. I'm telling you, I've been looking forward to this interview for a while. But this episode will be especially focused on his Marvel Comics work. And that's because Mike has a brand new book coming out through Clover Press called The Marvel Art of Mike Del Mundo, which features over 200 pages of Mike's best comic art from Marvel Comics. The campaign for this book officially launches on August 12th and will run for about a month. So by the time you're hearing this episode, you can actually back this project for yourself and help bring the campaign to life. Some of the perks being offered to backers include brand new stickers featuring Mike's artwork, a companion sketchbook, and a chance to get some original artwork from Mike. There's also a link to the campaign in the show notes, but you'll get to hear from Mike directly about what you can expect from this new art book and some of the thought process that went into the covers and work that he hand selected for the book. And without further ado, Shortbox Nation, let's welcome Deadly Mike Del Mundo to the show. What up, Mike? How you doing, man?
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
Yo, it is an honor. I mean, we talked a little bit before we hit start. Folks might not know this, but this has been an interview like 2 years in the making. And I think it arrived at the right time because the hype for this book, the Marvel art of Mike Del Mundo, is, I mean, it's everywhere. I see it. I see friends posting it. I've been watching your Instagram feed. I mean, hell, I was actually scrolling through your Instagram feed today, and it looks like that you're still making like the final selections for what covers and bodies of work that you've done will be in the book. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, we have made like a good amount of choices, but it's just so hard to make the choices, man. Like I'll
I
hit up
don't envy
Jay.
you. I do not envy your position right now.
Yeah, and I'm just like I'll hit up Jay and Jay Sorrenti, one of my good friends that's
Big shout out to
leading
Jason.
um and I think he's annoyed at me because I'll be like, oh man, we should like add in like some of the fan art I've done because that kind of resonates a little bit
Oh
more
wow.
with fans and like stuff like that, and like I'll just get like ideas like all of a sudden be like we should add this, or are we too late to add this? So I think we're still in the process of choosing, but we have taken a boatload of stuff to Marvel to get approved. So most of it is about like 70%. Yeah.
Speaking about Jason, I know that he tends to he'll write a lot of the posts that are on your Substack. And I was, doing my research, going through some of the posts there, and he mentioned, I found some earlier posts when you guys were first announcing the idea for an art book. I think you guys took a poll last year asking fans, "Hey, do you want a soft cover, a hard cover?" Which I think is super dope. It's like, hey, you're only producing the things that your fans want, and what better way to get feedback and input than like reaching out and asking polls. But at one point, Jason wrote something that. He did a tally of how many covers you've done, and it's somewhere in the like 320 range. And I'm like, man, that's an insane amount of work to select from. Like, what type of criteria are you going for when it comes to like what ends up in the book? Is there any criteria at all, or any way that you're organizing and filtering things?
I think I'm just kind of like winging it and like picking it based on feeling. But as well, Jay's also he's also been picking a lot of the books. So there's certain things that I'm
Awesome.
like, I don't know about this going into the book, and Jay's like, I really like this. So I trust his judgment. So we've been going back and forth that way. For the most part, we're trying to collect the runs. So like the
Hmm.
X-Men Legacy run,
Yeah.
the Elektra runs or the Vision runs. So we've trying to like make sure that like that whole collection is in there for the book. And so that's made it a little bit easier because the runs do take up a large number of the book. So when we went through the runs, and then we also kind of like weeded out what we don't want in the book.
Hmm.
So like we went backwards in that way. We're like, I don't want this in the book. I don't want that. So we did a little bit of a process in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was I love there's something you said in the press release for this book, for the campaign, I'm sorry, which folks, once again, campaign kicks off August 12th, which should be by the time this episode drops. So I would not be surprised if this is not a campaign that gets funded, one of those like 24-hour funded campaigns. But yeah, in the press release, you mentioned about how excited you are about having, your first art book. It'd be Marvel centric, and you shared something about, recalling the thrill of landing your first gig of Marvel, running to the comic shop on that Wednesday to see it on the shelves, and like how proud your 12-year-old self would be. And I want to know, like, thinking back to 12-year-old Michael Mundo, like, what was he into? Like, what comics was he reading? Like, comics or whatever. Like, what was he into? What artists were inspiring a young Mike?
Oh man, like the Image era, man. So like Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Eric Larson, Will Spertasio,
Mm,
and a slew of others, Jay Lee. But that's what I grew up with, like 90s era comics. My first comic was Uncanny X-Men 275 with Jim Lee, so that still holds dear to my heart.
yeah,
And then 281, I think, Will Spertasio, when like the X-Men Gold and Blue came together.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I like went deep deep dove like into X-Men in that way, and then just tried to kind of figure it out. I feel like as a child it was a lot easier to like get into comics, even though it's already like 200 issues in. There's some way like that you would just pick it up and just keep reading. So yeah, that's where I started. And man, there's so many stories from that time, but
Hmm.
those are my like my legends and my superheroes,
Did someone get
those
you into
artists.
comics, or was that something that you came across of your own?
Hmm, that's a
What's
good
your
question.
earliest comic memory? I guess because I've read.
Just like Friends. Oh, sorry, you read?
Oh, no, no. Well, no. I mean, I'm curious to know, like, what's your earliest comic memory? Because I've read interviews where you've mentioned the X-Men 275, that Jim Lee one, but also you in other interviews you've mentioned X Factor number 64.
Yeah,
Speaking about Will
so
Portatio, and
yeah,
I love
so
that. I love that you've said before that Will Portatio draws the best Iceman ever.
best Iceman. It's just like, I don't know, there's a lot of emotion in that one issue, man. I think it was issue number 67. And man, I fell in love with Iceman, like just because of Wilson's the way Wilson drew him. And I think it's just mainly just the way he like hatched those lines and just like added that rendering and just the emotion and like energy into Iceman. And Iceman's kind of difficult because he's just made of ice, and
Hmm.
like he did a like a really good job with that. And that was my introduction into Iceman. Actually, my introduction into the X-Men, because um X Factor was the first X book that like, or yeah, very first X book that I was exposed to. And like that pretty much bridged me into everything else. Because I remember grabbing like those first books, X Factor books. I would grab them at the variety store, like the local Hasty Market, and like where the spindle racks were. And then we caught wind, like, and then we'd bring them to school, like me and my friends would just talk about it. Then we caught wind, like, there's an actual comic store like that sells the real shit, like I'm like, the ones
The
without the
direct market.
barcodes, like, oh, and they got the plastics. And I'm like, so that's when I discovered Uncanny X-Men and everything else, is when I, you know my first time at the comic shop and this and that. But yeah, like the first time being exposed to comics was like X Factor, and like even before that, Toxic Avenger #1 and 2, and like Sleepwalker, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you had a chance to meet any of your like childhood heroes in the industry, working in the industry now and having made a name for yourself? Like, have you had a chance to meet Jim Lee or Will Sportasio? I know a couple years ago you had a chance to work with Todd McFarlane directly. That must have been
Yeah,
crazy.
that was a huge dream. I could pinch myself, man. It's like, yeah, it's crazy. Plus, he's Canadian, and like that's what kind of
Right?
like surprised me because when I first started reading Spawn, I didn't know he was Canadian until later on. So same with Will. So I didn't know he was a Filipino, um, like myself, and like I found that out because my dad was like, "Yo, that's a Filipino last name, or like this is a Spanish last name. He's got to be Filipino." So
Yeah, I
like
know what you're
those,
talking about.
all, like my mind was just blowing, like
Yeah.
exploding, like as a child, and those are huge inspirations just because of that. Like they were amazing artists. I didn't know their geographic locations and stuff, and
Yeah, or ethnic
um
backgrounds at that.
yeah, and learning about that was big. I was like, all right, cool, I could do this, man. Like this is a thing I could do. um I think I lost the question. What was the question again?
I was asking if you had a chance to meet any of your like childhood heroes. I
Yeah,
mean,
so I haven't met Todd, but we've talked on the phone, and he's the I guess like the kindest person in the world, because like the first time he ever called me was the first thing he said was, "Is this the superstar Mike Del Mundo that I'm talking to?" And I'm like,
nice. Get
yo,
out
so
of
like,
here.
yeah, man, that guy's
The charmer.
an
Yeah.
amazing individual, man, and he can talk. He could talk forever. So I just took it in, man. I just let him talk for like an hour, and I just like took in all the knowledge and whatever he had to say. And then um, yeah, I hung out with Wills a couple years ago, and that was amazing because I was with my family, he was with his family. It felt like a full like like a like a fam jam,
Cool. That's so cool.
Yeah, so that was yeah, man. It's hard to like take things in at the moment,
Hmm.
and then like all it takes is like my wife to be like, you're sitting with your like superheroes, right? Like your
That's so
idols, and
cool.
I'm just like, yeah, I know. It's like I'm trying to keep my composure,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying not
yeah.
to like have a anxiety attack and all that, right? But
It's got to feel surreal. Yeah, you brought up your dad, and I'm very curious if what I read is true. Tell me this if this is true or not. A- Has your dad posed for some of the covers that you've done and the artwork you've done? I think I read that
yeah, he's
somewhere.
posed for many covers, man. Like he's like the fittest 70-year-old. Um, but back then, I mean, he
Yeah,
was
that's
like
great.
back then he was in his 60s. I don't bother him anymore.
Word,
Like,
word.
but like when I was first doing my covers, yeah, man, he did a lot, and like he was like a true champ, and because like I mean, I'd just be like, stand there and let me move you. Like I'll move your arms like a action figure or something. But yeah, man, he's like my parents have been fully supported has have fully supported my art career, and even to that day of like, yeah, all right, cool, I'm gonna pose for you and be your model. So
Damn, that's so cool,
yeah.
man. That's awesome to hear. I could only imagine if I had your talent and had that same story with my dad. My dad probably would never let me live that down. He'd be in his head. He'd be like famous at that point. But that's awesome to hear. I guess to kind of sticking to this time frame, and that quote I shared about how excited you are to be doing this book and the memories you have of running to your local comic shop. What was that comic that you were running to the shop to grab? Because I found two different first, accredited work. There was a Heartbreaker comic from
That was
Marvel.
it. That was the
Really?
one.
Okay, so that's the one.
Yeah.
Because the other one I found was
Mhm.
Amazing Spider-Man, I think 647. You did like a short story.
Yep. Yeah, I did a short story like right away. Like it was crazy. Like that's what I kind of love about Marvel is like, I- well, at the time they were only really hiring like interior artists, and so I think I really lucked out. Like that's what I'm really
Yeah.
grateful about is like I feel like I really lucked out on like getting a cover gig or being a cover artist right away.
I
Because
tried to
back then it
find
was
I'm sorry, I tried to find something earlier than that, and it's
yeah.
like, no, my man got his shot at Marvel. And then it's been like, the trajectory and the momentum just carried through there. I mean, yeah, it's been very impressive to like work my way back and be like, oh shit, from the get go, like he landed at Mount Olympus at Marvel.
Yeah, they're very encouraging in terms of like, yeah, you're a cover artist. I want to see what you do with interiors. Give them like an 8 pager or something, right? So like I started with like a few 8 pagers, like a Osborne. Oh man, it's like ages ago, which
Yeah.
I can't even look at that artwork anymore. But like, but yeah, the Marvel Heartbreakers is the first cover I did, which is pretty unique because like I don't think I've ever done a cover after that that's like similar. Like it was like a Valentine's Day special
Yeah.
with the character Boom Boom. But like I don't even think I drew Boom Boom the way, in her costume. Like I
No.
just have her in kind of like a Molly Ringwald like feel. Like I was like kind of capturing the Breakfast Club basically.
Hmm.
Because I wanted to get all retro with it. Um so that was the beginnings. Um
And
that was the first one.
I guess on the topic of beginnings, I understand. Well, I guess I want to ask, what's your relationship with CB Cebulski now? Because I'm to understand if we're talking origin story, you two met years ago, 2010, I guess around that time at a fan expo in Toronto. He looked at your portfolio and gave you a shot right there. Is that right?
That's right, man. Like
Damn,
I
so
hate telling the
straightforward.
story because like the story's not like this like
Yeah,
I
it's so
came from rags to
straightforward.
riches. It was just like I mean, mind you, like stuff happened before that where like my life kind of changed where it just kind of like I changed my mentality to like fuck it, let's just go for broke, right? So I do remember going to um that Toronto Comic Con, setting up a table and seeing I don't even think they do lines anymore, but there was like a portfolio line to do reviews. And I remember walking past that line and being like, I'll go tomorrow. Like I
Hmm.
used to be like I'll go tomorrow kind of guy, or I'll do it the next day. And I went to the table and uh my wife at well, that was my girlfriend at the time, but now my wife. Um
Awesome.
I told her about it and I was like, there's a line up there, and she's like, just go. She's like don't go tomorrow, just go now. That was a Friday night too. Like we just kind of set up our table and we were just ready to sell stuff. And I'm like, all right, cool. I said, fuck it. Like, just took my book. Mind you, the book that I made was like a nicely done hardcover and back then it was like no one was really carrying like hardcover
Yeah.
printed portfolios. But I was working in design at the time, so I had like kind of like the hookups. And yeah, I took that book and
What was in the book?
fan art of like not even really like superhero stuff. It was mainly like films that I love, like Pan's Labyrinth, Where the Wild Things Are. Um and then I actually had an 8 pager story that we published through Maple Leaf Entertainment, which is like they do like Toronto Raptors and Toronto Maple Leafs. So I did a Raptor story for Chris Bosch.
Oh wow.
So we wrote
I
the
look this up.
story, we got it published, and it was like a book that they would distribute to like schools. It was more for like kids. I used that as like my portfolio for like sequential art. And yeah, I showed it, and I don't know. For me, I'm like maybe I fooled them into like give me a job because the book was so nice. Like the book was so nicely designed, and it was a
Yeah, the
hardcover book.
presentation was on point. Yeah.
It was like a nice 12 by 12. It was big, and I don't know. Like I just think I'm like what got CB to be like, yeah, this guy's ready. Because at the time I was like, looking back at it, I'm like, I don't know if I was really ready.
Hmm.
But it all worked out, and I gotta be grateful and thankful for CB just for giving me that shot because that was huge. Like that Friday night was like. After that, I was like, I don't gotta sell nothing anymore. Like I'm good, like I got a job. Um, but yeah, so I'm rambling here, but like I think
No,
I
no,
answered. Yeah.
Mike, this is your show right now. I'm here for these details, and I think that so are the fans. I do want to ask though, prior to that, did you go to school for art? Or are you like
I went
I
to
guess
school for graphic
traditionally trained?
design.
Okay,
Yeah, like I actually tried to get into like animation, and at the time they didn't really have school for comics. I mean, they did, but it was very like not in Toronto. So I was trying to get into animation.
okay,
Because the high school was mainly I was breakdancing, I was b-boying. That was like basically like I was gonna be a b-boy for the rest of my life. And I guess things changed, and I needed to like figure something out that like made money. uh, I had a girlfriend. I'm like, yo, I need to make some money.
Yeah.
But and I was like, what else to do? What else do I do other than dance and like comics? I like art. Basically, art brought me back to like that's the beginning when I was, as a kid. That's what I would do all the time is draw comics and draw art and draw the Ninja Turtles and stuff like that. So I decided to try to get into any sort of art school, and I got denied in every sort of art school because
Wow.
I think my grades were terrible, and I probably wasn't that great at art. But I like, I had that determination, and eventually, um, I got into a fundamentals course with George Brown, which is like a local college in Toronto, and uh, after that, I still couldn't get into animation. I guess I just wasn't that great. So I took design. Design was the only thing that accepted me, and I took design, and like it was a blessing in disguise because I was able to take everything I learned in design into everything I do
Yeah.
now in comics. So I fell in love with design as well. So it exposed me to something beyond just like that comic realm. Yeah.
And I think that's what draws my eye to your artwork. I mean, Mike, I don't mean to, what the kids say, glaze, but your art is some of my favorite comic book art because the graphic design tendencies are so apparent. And when I say the tendencies, I mean it's like the execution, the concept, like all of your covers, even though it's like a one single image, there's a concept and there's a clear execution. I think that your especially your covers have a lot of subtlety to them. The colors work. It's like I can clearly see that you've got graphic design background and you've studied like the like you come from that background. And I love anytime, and I don't know, I feel like graphic design, really good graphic design in comics is apparent and helps set it apart from a lot of things on the shelves. So when I see your artwork, I see that graphic design background and that training there. Do you care to share like who are some of your, when you think graphic design artists, like what names come to mind in terms of like who you've been impressed by, or who's motivated you? I think in one interview you brought up Herbert F. Lobalin, which led me down a giant rabbit hole of like finding out more about him. But when I see your
Yeah.
work, I think of like MC Escher. Like I think there's a nice
Yeah.
symmetry to your work at times. John Contino is another name that I kind of
Mhm.
associate with your style. What names come to mind for you?
Yeah, you mentioned like Herb Lubalin. I think that's how they or
Yeah, I
Lubalin.
might have fucked it up myself.
Um, yeah, I don't know how to properly pronounce it either, but he was huge like in like when I was taking design, and I think I applied like just the way he approached thought into like his typography, because it was mainly like how cool and clever the typography was and how that one word would tell a story. Like I remember he did like just recollecting like some of the images. Like he had like a type that said family, but then like the I and the L family, and like the Y or something, or families. The I, the L, and the I would create like you know the mother, father, and the
Hmm.
son. And it
Yeah.
was like that was it. That told the story, in like that one image. So I think I took that and was like, how do I apply that into like comics, where like we could just fidget with like some part of that image, and it'll tell the story without you
Hmm.
actually like deliberately explaining it. Um,
I think the one
yeah,
that comes to mind a lot for me when I think about like the it's almost like when I think of you, there's a trifecta. It's the graphic design element. There's the obvious comic book influence, the Jim Lee's, the Will Sportaccio influence, but then also like graffiti as well. And I think when you combine those three elements, you have Mike Del Mundo's artwork. And one of my favorite ones that come to mind when I think about like that perfect symmetry or trifecta is that Mystique cover where she's face down and she's like making copies of herself. I think that is one. Anytime I think of your work, I instantly go to that because of the story, the humor, the personality, how like like there's no words on the page, but the image tells you everything you need to know about the character and all of that.
yeah, yeah. I think that's one of my favorite covers. Like I don't know, it just kind of. I think some of my favorite covers are the ones that just I don't know how I came up with it. It just kind of like, I feel like it's like divine intervention at that point, because it was just like, it just kind of came, you know. Those are the covers that are just like, it just somehow rolled up in my head, and I feel like that in that way, it's more like some sort of godly presence that, like,
Mm,
you know, gives me these like little ideas here and there.
yeah, that's
So
cool. That's awesome to hear.
yeah.
And I guess back to the book. So the book is going to be 200 pages. Speaking about, it sounds like your knack for a nice product presented, a nice presentation is carrying forward in this book. I've seen Jason describe it. It's hardcover, something about gilded pages. I don't even know what that means.
I don't know
Nicely
what Ghost
bound. You're
Pages are
right.
either.
I should have looked that up, but it sounded nice. I'm like, oh,
We're
gilded pages.
learning, man. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's going to be a beautiful book. I know that you guys have also been announcing the extra perks. I think you guys are doing like another run of like unique stickers for this. You guys are, I think, there's a separate. All right, this is the thing that's really got my attention. There's a separate sketchbook that you guys are adding as I guess, a perk or a support level, where it's a separate sketchbook. I think that one's going to be soft cover, and that one features more of the sketches that ended up becoming the final product. So, I guess that gives an opportunity for someone like me to see, like, okay, how where it started and where it eventually came. And I'm curious to hear from you. Is there any what cover or body of work was a radical difference in what started out, how it started out in the sketch phase to the final product? Like, what comes
Oh
to
wow.
mind that was like such a radical difference?
Radical difference. That one's a hard question. I can't really recollect. I'm sure it's there, but I can't recollect like a sketch that like radically changed.
I think it'll be
Um,
just fun as as a fan to like go through, like what I'm saying, like to have a companion book to already like this, detailed breakdown, art book, to have like this companion book to see like the early sketches, the rough thumbnails and all of that. As a process
yeah,
junkie, that speaks to me big time.
that's my favorite part of like the process is the idea process.
Mhm.
The sketches, the thumbnail. That's my favorite part. Like
Yeah.
I could just sketch for days, not worry about like how this character is gonna look, just trying to create that energy
Hmm.
and just like trying to create one idea to the other. Because that's usually how I come up with ideas is like I'll kind of sit on it, I'll take a walk my dog, go to a coffee shop, let it sink in my head. Sometimes those ideas, sometimes the eureka moments come at the time. Most of the time it's like, all right, I got to start sketching. So like I have all these things in my head and I start sketching it out. And when for some reason when I'm sketching on like yeah, when I'm sketching on a book, they just come out. The ideas just flow. It's really quick. Something about an orange, I'll draw an orange and like I'll get an idea off that one orange. But that's why I always say to people is just like when you're working out ideas, just start sketching and they somehow your brain, it helps your brain to like kind of work its, start exercising. Um, but that's my favorite part is like the idea process because I don't have to worry about
Hmm.
cleaning this up, making it look cool. It's just like the cool ideas that we can come up with. And that's why we came up with a companion book because I really wanted to put the process in this art book, but at the same time, I also wanted to collect this nice volume of covers. And I'm like, how do we fit this all in? I would have made it like a 400-page book if we could. But so then
Bit of an
me and Jay
omnibus.
have already been in the process of like doing. We're like, why don't we just take all the X-Men Legacy like thumbnails that I've done
Mandatory. Yeah.
and turn it into like a pocket book? Like, have you ever seen those 33 and a third
Yes,
music
man,
books?
I love those books. They're like you can put them in
Yeah.
your back pocket. I think I've got actually I'm staring at the few I've got. I've got like the
Mhm.
Illmatic one, the Mad Villainy one. Yes, those
Yeah.
books are awesome.
Yeah. So that was like the example I
Hmm.
was telling Jay. I'm like,
Wow, that's cool.
let's take that and turn it into something like that where it's like you don't have to worry about keeping this thing clean, putting into the shelf. It's just a book that you can put in your pocket, you could keep in the bathroom
That's cool.
and just flip through these pages. Because when me and Jay were both flipping through these pages of like thumbnails, I was more excited. Me and him were more excited about those
Hmm.
thumbnails than the actual covers. I think it's like you forget about um what happened during that time, and it's like a nice time capsule to look at.
Yeah. What did they say?
And
It's like
there's
I'm sorry, what did they say? It's not always the final destination, it's the journey along the way that, is the story?
Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it just tells the story, right?
Mhm.
And also, when I was first doing books like X-Men Legacy or Elektra, I was very eager. I'd want to show off a bit, but I was also really excited about doing these designs and like these ideas, especially with X-Men Legacy. It just kind of like that theme of like Legion allowed me to play a lot with
Yeah.
like different things. So I would do like 15 sketches per cover. I mean, they only asked for 3 sketches to approve. I was like, I'll give you 15 because I'm just like, I'm just trying to show off a
Yeah,
bit,
you
but
try to
like
put your name out there.
also it worked out because, whatever they didn't pick, we would pick for the next following covers,
Cool.
or we would like, I would kind of like reevaluate some of those sketches and put them into whatever ideas I could make. So we just came like just X Men Legacy alone had like 100 sketches of ideas, and we're like, let's put that into a book, man. Like like the real raw stuff, like the way I look at it is like, I guess the way I look at it is like Madlib doing like beats. You know what I mean? Like he kind of just like makes the beat, and some of it sounds unfinished, and they just let it go. You know what I mean? Just like the idea or the feeling of it.
It's
So
especially when you consider someone like Madlib, and then I think you have to mention J Dilla in the same breath. When you consider the amount of beat tapes that are out there for each one, and
exactly, the beat tapes. Yeah,
how you can
yeah,
find beats that are on these, lo-fi, unpolished beat tapes that later find their way on, records with, Freddie Gibbs or, any artist. It is always cool to see like the difference and how it started as maybe just a loop or this like really kind of like unstructured idea, but then it gets some legs, later on. And I think
yeah,
when it comes to your artwork, is that you are such an intentional artist that and I feel like when you look at your, like especially X-Men Legacy, any of those covers, it is very intentional. There's no wasted space. And I think that speaks a lot. That probably that this companion sketchbook is probably going to speak a lot to the artist. Like anytime I look at your posts on Instagram or wherever it may be, there's always some top-notch artists in the comments also like, yo, Mike, this is dope. Oh man, I love seeing it. So I think that companion sketchbook is going to go a long way, not only for like the casual fans, but I think especially for the folks that are fellow artists that love that breakdown stuff.
yeah. It's gonna be fun, and I think we're gonna do it. Um, we're gonna try to match it with the book. So you have your X-Men Legacy covers, and then the book will flip the same way. So when you flip, if you have both books open, they would kind of like they'd connect,
Yeah.
or they match up. Yeah.
All right, and I guess sticking on the topic of the book, even though I've got like 20 tangents I could go down just hip hop wise of all the things you just
Let's
brought
go.
up, but sticking to the book really quick, how did you guys land on working with Clover Press? Because if I'm to understand, originally you guys it sounded like wanted to do your own thing, but managed to talk with Clover Press. They've been killing it in terms of their Marvel art books. I'm looking on their website now. They just put out a Mike Allred out book. They have a Michael Turner, Russell Dodderman, a fellow Marvel young gun from your class. How did you guys end up linking up with Clover Press?
Well, Hank Canals. Have you heard of Hank Canals?
No, but I would love to connect with them and talk
So
about
Hank
what they're
Canals is
doing.
actually he has like a crazy story because he actually is the I guess the designer that designed the image logo. So he
Get
created
out
the
of
image
here.
logo.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's badass.
Yeah. So he's been with like the core original 90s
Huh.
image crew since time, and you can see him in the pictures
Yeah.
in there. He's kind of like the secret sauce. um
That might explain why all these art books look amazing. I mean, I've seen a few of them at the shop in hand, and they all look amazing. Bound really well. The cover art is great. The slip cases and all that. So that's cool.
yeah, so he's been working with Three Worlds, Three Moons, which is the crew I have with Jonathan Hickman, Mike Hurlston, and Nick Spencer, and he's been helping us. He's been in doing the inner workings there, and there's always been kind of talks of, you know, why don't we do like a Marvel art book or with like my stuff? And it's always been kind of like we'd say it here and there. So eventually like I was just like I told Jay, let's just hit up Hank, since like we were already working with him. He's amazing, and you know, Clover Press does like beautiful books. Like why not, right? And that's how it worked out. We just hit him up and just hoping that they're down with the idea, and like yeah, he jumped in real quick, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Did y'all reach out to anyone else, whether there be fellow colleagues, friends, et cetera, to get ready to run a campaign? Is this, I guess, let me take a step back. Is this safe to say this is your first campaign, Kickstarter backer kit?
I would say this is my first. We did do one with Three Worlds, Three Moons.
Okay, that's right. That's right.
And Hank also helped take care of the Kickstarter campaign with that. But this will be my very first one, and
Okay.
Jay's as well.
What's the best? Have you gotten any advice from, like I said, colleagues, other friends, artists, etc., when it comes to Kickstarter? Because that's like I asked because it's a conversation me and my buddy Walt was having the last episode. Is that we're noticing more and more comic creators going just directly to Kickstarter, funding, getting these campaigns going, getting fans to fund them, and we're getting some dope stuff out of it. I mean, we were talking about how Dennis Cohen just put out an amazing art book on his own through Kickstarter. So this is a trend that, it feels like the floodgates have absolutely opened when it comes to artists just, going direct to consumer. I guess have you gotten any good anecdotes or advice from friends and colleagues?
Yeah, I mean, we're sharing, like, I mean, we're learning every day. And even Torrin Clark has a Kickstarter out right now with a Essential Sequential. He's doing a Marvel art book, and Luis La Rosa is also going to be doing one. So I've been actually talking to Torrin and just sharing like, like whatever cool things might work for the Kickstarter campaign, and sharing like what didn't work or what we should have done before. The main thing that like I've experienced even with Three Worlds, Three Moons is like that pre-launch, like that first week or 2 weeks of pre-launch is like very important, because you got to gather all those backers and get that list going. So when that first live day hits, you want to get as many as you can to back that project, because that will take you to like the whole like to higher stages with Kickstarter, like projects we love, stuff like that. So that first 2 days is very important. You want to like hit everyone real quick. And the main thing too is like what everybody's been like reiterating is that like the email list is like the most important thing to have. Like we've been building like these social media like Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and all that. Been building it for years, not and just realizing that like you're only attracting like 2% of that audience. So it's like you're almost like fishing at that time. Like and it's like what we should have been gathering emails and having like a core community that like that supports. And when you post things, it just kind of it gets to them. It's not like I don't know how many people I'm getting to, and I don't know who's seeing my stuff on Instagram and this and that. So
you're saying cut out the algorithm being the middleman that decides who gets to see it, and having an email list is like the one of the most direct ways. Because I was going to mention that I feel like I have seen you post more than I've ever seen you post like this past month, which has all been great. Like you've been posting
I almost want to like apologize and be like, hey guys, like I apologize. Give me a month and I'll be quiet. Like after this month, I'm gonna be quiet again. But this is the time where you gotta like I'm just like I'm gonna be that annoying guy, because I can't be like trying to be acting cool and stuff, but I'm trying to make some money here.
For sure. Look, I say that, with love, because I've been enjoying the post. You've been posting like behind the scenes stuff, kind of giving us, a preview of what's going in the book. The Substack has been great. Big, another big shout out to Jason who writes a lot of the posts. But, sharing what is it called, Walk Down Memory Lane, the Memory Lane post, where you talk about some of your earlier work. That's been great. So it's been quality posts, to say all that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, a lot of those I do want to make sure that when I post, I don't feel like a car salesman. So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
we're trying our best to, figure out ways to
Hmm.
make it different
For
and
sure.
not yeah. Anyways, yeah.
Well, look, I'm gonna remind folks one more time. The Kickstarter and backer kit. I think those will be running simultaneously. Kickoff August 12th. Most campaigns run a month. You just heard Mike. The first day, first week, backing is the most important. I've already got my email alert set up, and mainly because you guys announced another reward tier that I
Hmm.
mean, I gotta get this, but you guys recently announced that in addition to the stickers, in addition to it sounds like there'll be multiple slipcase cover art available. You guys are also what is it, like maybe the first 20 or so that back the campaign will get an original sketch piece of art from you. Is that correct?
Um,
Let me
hmm,
make sure my facts are right.
to be honest, I know that we're gonna be doing remarks.
There we go. Maybe that
There
was the
will be
case.
remarks happening. You might be right, but I'm not gonna.
You're like,
Let's just say
Jason,
that
what did you put me into, Jason?
no, Jay knows more than me, so that could be
Okay, okay.
that could be right. But I do know that there will be like a certain amount of remarks, and I'll hit up Jason right now and make sure.
Here, I've got the site pulled up right here, and it says, okay, all right. I'm reading it straight from the Substack. I'll have more information. I have a secret to share with you. Mike is doing 25 sketches with this Kickstarter campaign. So if you always wanted a piece of original art from Mike, this is the way to get it. Sign up and be the first to pledge. And it does say in the comments that it's not, you don't get to pick the character's sketch. It'll be like
Yeah, yeah,
basically like a commission, or not a commission, but a sketch, which
yeah,
led me
yeah.
to thinking, I Mike, do you at this point in your career, you mentioned like, sketching, you've got a sketchbook. Do you prefer I it seems like a lot of your work is digital, but now
Mhm.
I'm hearing like, sketches and your sketchbook. Like, do you have a preference or do you kind of live in both worlds?
I live in both worlds. It's just that working in Marvel's, doing covers and just going through the deadlines. Digital art is just it's just quicker, and man, it's just sometimes sometimes it takes like a week just to finish something like fully colored. Um, and so that's really it. Is like I was just fell into the beginnings of like my the start of working at Marvel. I fell into like digital art right away. Like I that Marvel Heartbreakers, I did that. I did the initial sketch in pencil, but then after that, I just got swarmed with like work right away, and I was like, you know, I was using a tablet at the time, so that was just my go-to tool. There's times where I will take certain pieces, and just because I want to get that pencil feeling or that pencil crayon feeling, I will do like the original piece and put it into like one of the splash pages, like I did with the Incredible Hulk thing I did with Lemire. Um, and some of the splash pages I've done with Spawn, I've done that like traditionally. For the most part, it's like it's digital. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when I read that post, I immediately got to thinking like I would love to own a Mike Mundo original art piece. I went to eBay, didn't find anything. I'm like, man, I guess maybe he's the type that you've got to go to a
Well,
convention, try to get a sketch
commissions are
there.
tough for me,
Hmm.
man.
Okay.
Like I sketch a lot, so like I do a lot of traditional stuff where like I have a sketchbook all the time in my bag. I'm constantly sketching. When I'm outside. I'm like my favorite thing to do is to draw people like life drawings. So like I'll go to a coffee shop or a mall, draw faces for days. I love it. It doesn't give me any stress. It's just like that's what I do. It's like my therapy. So I do that. In terms of commissions, like, I don't know what it is, but I am that guy that just gets stressed out over
Hmm.
commissions, man.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I first was working in comics and going to conventions and doing commissions and just being the most terrible person in terms of like being the slowest guy to like give out a commission. And it's quite embarrassing. So I'm like, I kind of said it to myself. I'm like, this is just not me. It's like not for me. Um, I think I care too much about the commission and who I'm giving it to, and like thinking about like, you know, like these guys are giving me like, you know, $400 or $500, and like, what did they have to go through to get that money to, you know? So then for me, it gives me anxiety because I'm just like, I got to make this really good for them, which makes it even worse, right?
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing about commissions. But I think it's also the fact that like we're doing commissions at the same time as like just going through the grind of comics and like constantly working. So that stresses out a lot. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do these covers, and I think I'll be fine with it. And like,
Look, that's why we have art book coming out, the Marvel art of Michael Mono. That's, if you want an original sketch, you got to sign up and try to get that first 25. But
yeah,
hearing you talk about the grind of comics, I want to ask Mike the twofold question. At your busiest, how many covers were you cranking out, you know, at any given point? Let's start with that.
man, what I could say is that like what I do remember is working on 4 or 5 covers along with like a monthly book. That yeah, like when I was doing Elektra, I was also running like 3 or 4 covers or 5 at the same time in a month. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Now, and today, do you feel like it's gotten, you know, they say like, you know, when talking about something difficult, it doesn't get easier, you just get better. Like, do you feel like do you think, I guess in your, you know, space now, is comics easier for you?
Covers have gotten easy, but I feel like covers have always been like a little easier and fun. Interiors is always going to be a grind. I think, you know, I thought, hey man, the more I do this, it'll get easier, like interiors for me. But I guess I haven't done enough. But yeah, I feel like it's always it's always like a challenge, and it's always stressful, but it's also the most rewarding when you're finished. Um, I would say like in terms of like covers, I would say in terms of speed, I was way faster back in the days. Yeah, just because I was just being bombarded with like with gigs, especially when I signed when I did my signs, like a 2 year sign with Marvel. They would just, you know, send me books, like send me cover jobs like here and there. So I was just going for it. I was just grinding basically. And I think things have slowed down a bit more, and the fact that like I haven't taken as much covers now, I feel like I've taken my time, or like I'm like maybe it's age, I've gotten slower, you know. But back in the days, I was just like, I just got to get these things
Man,
done,
a
and I got to
machine.
figure out like the best possible way to make these covers look good with a short amount of time. But the main thing was like we just got to finish these books, you know.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it also depends on, you know, a lot of factors, the assignment, the deadline, probably the creative team that you're working with. And I want to use that to pivot into another segment and another question for you. I want to talk about some of the creative teams, you know, some of the writers that you worked with and some of the creative teams that you've been a part of. But first, I want to toss out a question from someone else. I like to call this the Short Box Friends and Family segment of the show. Is where I shut up for a little bit. I let someone else chime in with a question. In this case, this question comes from Ben Kingsbury. He's the owner of Gotham City Limit Comic Shop, the official sponsor of the Short Box. I told him I was having you on the show, and he's like, I got a question for him. So I'm gonna go ahead and play Ben's question, and we can hear from him. All right.
Hey, Mike, Ben K from Gotham City Limit, a local comic shop here in sunny Jacksonville, Florida. Thanks so much for taking some time to be here today. So, I'm always interested in other people's perspectives, especially people who work in the comic book industry. So, I guess that's where my question comes from today. You've worked with so many fantastic comic book writers, from Tom King to Jonathan Hickman and so many more. I'm sure you probably worked with a few that you don't care to work with again. So, what qualities do you look for when collaborating with a writer so that at the end of the day, you both have kind of created your shared vision? I'll leave you to answer. Thanks so much for what you do. We literally couldn't do it without you. And remember, Short Box Nation, we'll always take it to the limit.
Yo,
Peace.
yo, big shout outs to Ben, man. I love the energy.
Um, what qualities, man? Like, I think I just look at working with a writer as like a collaboration, like a 50-50 collaboration. Um, in terms of like working with writers, with the writers I have worked with, it was a different. It felt different because I would just a lot of times I get the script and I'll just work the script in, like I do my job, and then sometimes I'll want to change something and I'll put it, I'll put the question out, and like I don't think I've ever had an issue with writers being like, no, we can't do it that way. It's just they're just always open to it. But I would say like my most memorable experience is with Jonathan Hickman because he's sorry. Someone, are you cutting out or?
No, I'm here. Hello. Mic check,
Oh,
1
okay,
2.
okay. Yeah, it's probably my internet. But I would say it's Jonathan Hickman because I remember when we were first working on our Three Worlds, Three Moons stuff. Um, I was so used to just making sure that you know, the writer is like happy with like what we're doing with the book. Like, are you cool with me doing this? Are you cool with me drawing this mountain here? Are you cool with me changing this character up just a little bit and this and that? Jonathan was like fully hands off. He was just like, here's like the skeleton of the script, and he's like, you just do what you need to do. And I didn't believe it at first because I was like, are you sure? So it was like a constant back and forth where it's like, what do you think of this? He's like, well, I don't even remember what I wrote, you know. So his collaboration is more like, you know, here's the skeleton piece. Do what you got to do with it. I'll take it. I'll run some ideas off of it, or I'll get some ideas off of the new characters that you've designed, and we'll go from there. Like it's more of like this feeling and this like constant evolution of like ideas that like go back and forth. So I've had a great experience with that. In terms of like all the other uh writers I've worked with, I don't have anything bad to even say about them. It's just I think it was just different because a lot of it was just me getting the script and working off the script, and that's it, you know.
Do you mind
Um,
if I name? I want to say a couple of names, and I want you to give me some words that come to mind, whether it be a story or just a couple of words. Yeah, so Hickman was on my list. It sounds like you have a very, like you said, he's very hands off. It sounds like he gives you a lot of leeway and runway to incorporate your ideas and style and bring stuff to the table. What comes to mind when I say Mark Waid, who was the writer of the Avengers run that you did interior work for?
oh man, it's like I said, like all these writers are like the best writers I've worked with. So I've been blessed to work with them. And working on Avengers was it was just a thrill working on those characters, man. And like being able to like work on Kang and like those yeah, I can't say anything bad, man. It was amazing. Yeah.
I mean, and to work with like Mark Waid on like the most superhero of all books, right? With all these different characters. I think he's one of my favorite writers, and when it comes to like writing superhero stuff, like he's one of the best out there. So that's good to hear. What comes to mind when I say Hayden Blackman, who you worked with on Elektra, which was one of like I think you've said it yourself, like one of your first big projects that you got from Marvel that wasn't just covers. What comes to mind when you think of Blackman?
Yeah, Hayden's amazing. I think that was like the first time. That was my first ever real moment of working with a writer for like a long form book. And I remember working out like all these sketches even before we had like the script going, and just like ideas that I would throw them, like just uh panel ideas, like, oh, this is what I'm thinking for like Electra, like, like maybe we could do something like this for these panels and this for these panels. And I think the fact that he was already working on, like, he already did those books with J.H. Williams, um it was like a nice evolution of like I wanted to work that way as well. So he was able to kind of write the same way. And yeah, man, it's that like Electra, memories of Electra is just been amazing. Like and working with him was the same way that we worked with like same way I work with Jonathan Hickman. It's just like a nice cohesive, hands off kind of thing. Yeah.
You know what? All right, and then I got one more name, and I'm going a different route here. Instead of a writer, I'm gonna say an editor's name that you're very familiar with. You've worked with him on a bunch of projects, but Stephen Wacker. What comes to mind when you think of Stephen?
Uh, funny guy. Yeah. No, Stephen Wacker he's like ingrained in my memory just because he was the first editor I ever worked with on Spider-Man. So he got me my first Spider-Man cover, and yeah, and he also started working with us at Three Worlds, Three Moons as
Right.
yep. So yeah, man, he's what can I say about Steve? And he's always been super supportive with my work, and he's always, constantly been getting me like those great gigs. And he's like a really good dude. Yeah.
All right, Mike, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do a right turn really quick because I feel like I have to ask this because I'm sitting here trying to think of like my all-time favorite covers by you, and I mean the Mystique one it comes top of mind. The Miles Morales with Kingpin with the graffiti comes to mind. I didn't know the story that that actually ended up being real graffitied and put on a real wall.
Yeah.
For you, what were some of the? I mean, you mentioned X-Men Legacy. You've mentioned some of the things that had to go in the book. What other things, covers, interiors, etc., like had to go in the book when you knew that, hey, we're gonna put together this art book? Which ones were like, absolutely, this is mandatory, it goes in here that we haven't already mentioned?
Oh man. I mean, I wish we could put the Darth Vader piece in there.
That's a great one. That's a great one.
Yeah, that was like the first thought, but
That one.
yeah, that unfortunately that's not going in because it's like a
That's right, because it's only
Star Wars
Marvel characters
license.
only for the most part. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got you.
yeah. The first one, yeah, definitely. What comes to mind is like the Mystique was for sure going in there. The Miles Morales is like a big milestone because of the fact that it was like a collaboration between me and my good friend Bacon, which is like one of the top kings in Toronto, like graffiti kings, and just the way that cover like evolved into, like you said, being on a wall. Because my first thought for that cover was Marvel hit me up to do a graffiti cover, and I was like, I don't do graffiti, but I know the best guys to do this.
Hell yeah.
So I hit up Bacon. I was like, hey, I got this idea. I just need you to do like the letters because I can't do letters. I can't write. And he's just like, well, why don't we just put it on a wall? And I was like, for real? I mean, if you're down, I'm down.
Oh, that's
Right. And I
cool.
remember bringing it up to Marvel. Marvel's like being like, well, just make sure that like it's not an established like piece, or like they were just kind of iffy about it. And I'm like, nah, man, this is gonna work. And yeah, I remember like him just being like fully down to like do this on a wall. And he had his like warehouse. He had this warehouse there, and just started painting, man, and like it just looked incredible, dude. Like I don't know, I was like, I didn't think this would ever become a cover.
Yeah, come
The
to
fact
life
that
with that.
Yeah, and the fact that like we just literally we took a picture of that wall and just like superimposed it to like Photoshop, and like I added the miles in there, and like I don't know, it's just cool, man. I'm like,
Is that piece still up?
I don't know, I gotta ask him.
That'd be
I
cool to
gotta
hear.
see.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me ask this then. Marvel stuff aside, let's say if you were able to bring in whatever, one or two, however many would come to mind for you, non-Marvel related things that you've done into this art book, just for the hell of it, what comes to mind immediately? Because I talked to you about the Concrete Jungle Rock Kim piece that you and Sanford did for the Rock Kim statue that came out through Concrete Jungle. You've done a lot of merch, branding and design as well, and it's always cool to meet other Mike the Mundo fans that are like, oh, this is one of my favorite pieces by him, and it could be like the fucking Alfredo cover. Like you've done so much more outside of just the world of comics. What other bodies of work or pieces of art would you put in a bigger art book or a future art book that aren't Marvel related?
Oh man, like all the turtle stuff I've done, because like
That's right.
90s kids, so any of the turtle stuff that I've done was a big deal. Those are
Didn't
like
you do a
milestones.
didn't you do a one for Last Ronin, and it was like all the brothers pulling up
Yeah.
the flag together?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good one.
And I did like I did one cover, like a variant cover, which kind of depicted like Michelangelo as the statue of David, like
Hmm.
eating a pizza.
Yeah, that's a good one
And
too.
I did like a big Mondo poster that cut like that I had like I put all like the I gotta put all of the first wave of like teenage like TMNT figures on there, like all the mutants and stuff.
Oh,
Um,
whoa. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I just looked it up on Google. This is an insane. I mean, it never it ba- some of my favorite pieces by you are the ones that are so, like a piece like this where it's so many characters in one. It never feels messy. It feels like it's kind of like where's Waldo? You want to look for the details and like the small intricacies and who you're throwing in there and the homages.
Oh, thanks. I mean, that took a long.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
took a long time. Like they
this
didn't
is
like.
insane.
Yeah, at first it was like a mess. Like you're like you can't see anything, and it was
Hmm.
just like it just takes a long time of like figuring out how to separate these characters. So, but yeah, that's definitely one that I would put in the book, and like definitely a lot of like the hip hop stuff that I've done, like like you mentioned the Rakim uh piece,
The
the
box art.
box art I did for the
Hmm.
Rakim, and the box art I did for like the Inspected Deck, which is also Concrete
Concrete Jungle too.
Jungle.
Okay. I know you
Yeah.
just did a concert poster for Wu Tang. I think I might have missed out on that. I tried to set an alarm, but yeah, it's cool to see your stuff
Yeah.
out in the wild. I mean, we mentioned earlier, Jason keeping a running track of all your covers exceeds 300 plus, and then if you were to think about the box art, the posters that you've done, the album covers, man, you've got a very impressive bibliography when it comes to that. The only reason I don't have, and here's the thing, Mike, I wanted to, had I planned a little better, I would have either had the Electra trade paperback here
Mhm.
or an Alfredo vinyl, but I missed out on the pre-orders. The
Yo,
Alfredo
they
2
sold out
sold
quick.
out,
Yeah,
but I
quick.
did happen to get the comic book pre-ordered.
Nice, nice.
So I've got to ask about Freddie working with Freddie Gibbs. My understanding is that he hit you up years ago when Alfredo 1 came out, and you guys managed to work out the concept. And if I recall the story correctly, he use emojis to tell you like what his idea was for Alfredo?
Yeah, from what I recollect, it was
Communicated.
like we wanted to do something like a Godfather theme, but in the form of pasta. And I remember it was like an emoji of like, the pasta emojis.
Yes.
Yeah. And like that's like the genius of these guys is they have the idea and they know
Yeah.
that the idea is gonna be strong
Mhm.
enough to send me like
Just a
that
pasta emoji.
that like that's a real thumbnail. So
Get out of here.
um but yeah, those guys are like him and his manager Lambo are like
Mhm.
they think so different. Like that's what I love about that Freddie and Lambo is like they're just different thinkers, man. Especially with their rollouts, especially with like when they're working an album and their themes and like what they're doing with that album. It's like super different. As
They
you can
do.
see with like Alfredo 2, like that's a big rollout. And I just love how they think. And I think the same way. And they just let me go with that comic too. So that was super dope.
And it's and that's what I'm saying is like if you want a Mike Del Mundo comic covers and interior, you've got to go kind of like outside of comics. And I've always appreciated how uh, my thing is always like finding the synergy between like hip hop and comics, these two things that I really love. So when artists like you that fill that void for me, like I become an extra fan. But I think what's interesting about you is that you will bring hip hop into comics where I'm sorry, I think it's the vice versa, where hip hop tends to overlap with comics a lot, right? Like, you've got your Method Man calling himself Johnny Blaze, all the
Yeah.
comic references made in hip hop. But I don't think it always goes the other way around where hip hop goes into finds its way into comics. And I think that's
Yeah.
what's cool about your career, is that you've always made it a conscious decision to bring hip hop into comics. So to like pre-order the Alfredo comic, and I think you guys posted on the Substack, was awesome to read. And knowing that, like, someone like Freddie Gibbs, yeah, and Lambo, who you don't really take for comic book fans, are like have their hands on the pulse, and they see something in your work for them to reach out and want to like bring that synergy together. I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool, man. And I think like another thing too is like when you don't think a lot of these guys are comic fans, but a lot of these guys are comic fans. It's crazy. Like, even like talking with Lord Finesse like a few weeks ago, and I didn't know he was a comic fan. He was just name dropping comics, man. And like it wasn't just like your regular, comic books. Like these are like gems, and like he went on a deep dive with it, and I'm like, yo, like
That's cool.
they're comic fans out there for sure.
I have found that, and some of the folks that I know are, the most hip hop heads, do you know what I'm saying? Like so ingrained in the culture. Some names that come to mind, like I know Pete Rock is a huge hip hop head. Young Guru, Jay's engineer. Rob Markman, legendary hip hop journalist, always bigging up comic books. So yeah, man, you're right. It is interesting to see like, who's not even an undercover nerd, but like, full on nerd, and who can talk that comic book talk with the best of them.
Yeah.
I had no idea Lord Finesse was like of this culture as well. That's
I didn't
really
either.
inspiring.
And he was just like, I know my shit. He's like, I know my shit, man. He's
Okay,
like,
Mike,
yeah.
I've got, we're officially at the hip hop part. I've got just a couple questions. I know we've been going a little long, but I would beat myself up if I didn't ask you these. First and foremost, I was one of the books I ended up reading last year was the Dilla Time book by Dan Charnas. I think that's the name of the author. And I came across a chapter that blew my mind. It was a revelation for me, because he goes on to explain that a famous or an online famous image of J Dilla. It's a 2D drawing. It's a drawing of Dilla as Linus from the Peanuts, and he's hunched over playing NPC. I have seen that image for years. There's like no way to call yourself a Dilla fan and not have seen that on a blog, some bootleg shirt. I probably have a bootleg sticker of it somewhere. The artist has never been credited until that moment. Well, for me at least, reading that book, and he mentions your name, and it's like, that's what I'm saying, is like your career is so interesting to see like where you've dabbled and where you'll find like your artwork at. I mean, do you look back at that? Like, what's the origin? When did you do that piece of art, and how crazy is it to see it everywhere, man? I'm serious. It's like you can't escape it.
That's got to be the most popular image that like has gone everywhere and been bootlegged to death, man. Like it's just like, but yeah, it's really special, man. Like, because literally when I did that as like, when J Dilla passed away, I think it was around exactly at that time. Yeah, and I did as just like, as a fan, I wanted to do an image as a fan, and
because it's not signed either. Like, there's no way to tell it's. I mean, is there a way to tell it's you? Is it signed or anything?
I think I did sign it, and like people just started taking the logo off and like claiming it as like whatever. This is some like,
oh my god, yeah,
really
the internet being the internet.
Yeah, the internet being the internet,
for sure.
But it's all good, because I love the fact that like, like it pops up a lot. And like I love the fact that I can be like, "Yo, I did that," and they're like, "No, you didn't." You know what I mean? Like,
it was show me the signature. You're like,
yeah,
I
it's
promise.
one of those kinds of images. And like, shout outs to like Dan Charnas for even including me in that book. That was special, man. Like, I'm like a huge Dilla fan. It's like my favorite like producer, favorite. I can even say favorite rapper, man. Like that guy was like super skillful, right? But shout outs for him for even putting my name on there.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, that was crazy.
If you had to make a playlist of your all-time favorite Dilla songs, what immediately comes to mind that you got to add on there?
Like all the tracks from Lab Cab in California, man. So like Runnin' and Drop and She Said and and even like going back to like the Mad Skills, all the beats like that he did for Mad Skills. Stakes is High, And like I said before, like Let's Take It Back, anything from Rough Draft, Make 'Em Envy. Man, there's too many things to name, man. Peer Pressure,
Yeah.
Dilla,
I'm
like
thinking, now you got me thinking like The Shining and E equals MC square. Always love that beat.
yeah,
MC
from
square.
The Shining, Baby, that track
Oh,
Baby.
that's a good one. The Guilty Simpson. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
so
good
we
one.
can go for days, man,
Oh,
with
yeah.
like it's crazy. It's crazy. I think he has like the best album run of anybody.
Yeah.
Like those albums are all classics.
And then
And I remember listening to Donuts and being like, yo, when I first heard Donuts, I was like, what is this? You know, like it's like 15-second tracks, you know, like 30-second tracks, and you're like, oh man, and like they were just loops. And I love that, like it's one of those albums that took me like a few days before I'm like, oh yeah, I like it now. You know, like it's like it grew on. It's the albums that grow on you. You know?
Speaking about Donuts, that was like in my prime Bear Share LimeWire days, where I was consuming as much hip hop as I could, and the only way I could like fill that need was to download as much as I could. Now, granted, to this day, I own like several copies of Donuts in every single form, so I don't feel bad saying I remember downloading Donuts because I
Yeah.
was really into beat tapes, like Ninth Wonder. I was looking for Pete Rock beat tapes
Yeah.
and came across Donuts, and it was unlike anything I had ever heard. But I contribute to that. I attribute Donuts to my love of like record collecting now, being really into soul music, like obscure,
Yeah.
like funk stuff. Yeah, Donuts is it. And to your point, and like in the context of like, you know, hip hop at that time, it really was unlike anything else, you know.
Yeah,
But
because at the time it was just like hard drums, like crispy
yeah,
snares, um, and like heavy like kicks and bass lines and and then he comes out with Donuts and it's like, you know, Motown flipped. And like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
almost
yeah.
like he was just flipping like like those samples and just using those drums and sounds.
And to tell a story
Yeah.
too, right? Like, you know,
Yeah.
you talk about like really incorporating the samples, because I mean, all you had is like the only vocals on the songs were the vocals from the samples. And you know,
Yeah.
speaking about those 30 and a third books, I have the Donuts one, and that one was like eye opening to like kind of see like the different what the sample choices like meant, and in juxtaposition to like his health at the time, which I think
Yeah,
has been
I love the lore of it all, man, because
yeah,
there's
right,
so
right,
much
right.
lore with like Donuts, whereas like he
Hmm.
made that in his hospital bed, and then
Yeah.
later on you find out that he was using Pro Tools.
Hmm.
Like they're like, I'm sure I like there's all these like stories of like
Exactly.
he did this and this, and then you find out later like no, he was using Pro Tools for that, and like there's just like all these
For
different kinds
sure.
of lore, and
For sure. And
yeah,
speaking about
man, it's
Motown,
amazing.
I will add that all of these all of these things now are on YouTube, but back in the day you had to do some serious digging on, on the internet, online forums. Hope someone was kind enough to upload Dilla beat tapes, but they're all over YouTube now. There's a really good one called the Motown beat tape by Dilla
Oh
that
yeah,
is
yeah.
stupendous, right? It's full of soul samples and all of that. So, um, Mike, thank you for thank you for taking me down a Dilla rabbit hole on my comic book
We could go
podcast.
for days with like
For sure.
rap stuff for sure.
Okay. Speaking of which, I've got another hip hop question. The Marvel Hip Hop Cover Initiative from I think 2010, 2011, whatever year that was, is one of my favorite all time initiatives in comics. I'll never forget learning about it, getting those first couple of covers, and like feeling like this is what I've always wanted out of like my comics, like this perfect amalgam and all of that. And doing some research, and always like I always tend to like go down the rabbit hole of just trying to see like what other covers are out there that I haven't seen before, which there is hundreds still. But you, if I'm not mistaken, I think you might have the most Marvel hip hop covers done by a single artist. I think maybe there's one other artist that has done nearly as many as you, but you've done four by my count. You did a hip hop, sorry, you did a Marvel hip hop cover for a Thanos #1 after. It was an homage to Every Hero Needs a Villain, the album of Czarface. You did a cover for Red Wolf #1, which was an homage to Cal by Method Man. You also did a Squadron Supreme cover, which was an homage to Enter the Wu-Tang 36 Chambers. And then one of my favorite ones, and maybe one of the most famous ones out of that entire initiative, was the Amazing Spider-Man #1, which was an homage to Midnight Marauders by Tribe Called Quest. Now, you have said before that Midnight Marauders was one of your first CDs you ever bought. The album that got you into hip hop. And I'm curious, like, in addition to Midnight Marauders, what are some other albums that you cherish as much as that, or had a big influence on you growing up? Like, what are some of your favorite hip hop albums?
Souls of Mischief, 93 to Infinity, for sure. Black Moon Enter the Stage, which is crazy because I remember picking up Black Moon Enter the Stage and Wu-Tang 36 Chambers, and I didn't know anything about these guys. You're just like, sometimes, especially at the time when you're just discovering hip hop, you're just going into that music shop and buying a CD based on the album cover.
For sure.
And I remember 36 Chambers scared the hell out of me. Like, I was like, that just looks I don't know if that doesn't look hip hop. It just looks like some scary,
yeah.
Like they had like the candles lit and like the blank faces. So I'm like,
some
I'm gonna go for
shit.
like, yeah. And I was like, I'm gonna go for Enter the Stage, and I feel like that was like a really great choice because eventually I would end up listening to 36 Chambers. Like eventually, like a year later, like you're gonna be exposed to that album anyways. Whereas like Black Moon Enter the Stage was like kind of like, a little bit harder to find, and that exposed me to like the whole Ducktown, that whole Ducktown movement. So that was huge for me. And Master Ace sitting on Chrome, like Master Ace Incorporated sitting on Chrome, like these are big. For sure, I would say favorite album, Mobb Deep the Infamous,
man,
and close second, Nas Illmatic. Even though like I can rhyme every word on Nas Illmatic, so those are always like they're always battling for first and second. Sure. But yeah,
I speaking about Infamous, I came across a bootleg that had a bunch of like the original versions of a lot of the songs that ended up becoming the Infamous.
Yeah.
And Temperatures Rising is one of my favorite Mobb Deep songs ever. But there's an original version that has a Quincy Jones sample that is amazing. So
really
highly recommend. Yeah, I
highly
hear
recommend
that. Check. I'll see if I can. I might actually have it loaded up on a drive. I'll send it to you. And if you ever need any beat tapes, I've got a separate hard drive just with like my
let's
beat tape
go
stuff.
Yeah, we'll share.
Okay, well, on the topic, I brought up the hip hop covers, obviously, just to hear you talk. Some of your favorite albums, but I also want to know: was there a cover done by someone else, another artist that really impressed you? And then also, in the same question, if you could do another hip hop cover, what would you do?
Okay, I think the artist is OG Slick, but the Far Side Bizarre Ride to the Far Side album cover. I actually have it like framed right here. If you see, right there, just beside that Dilla. Yeah. So I remember when you get the CD, you can fold it out and you get like the whole piece. And I framed it because like that's always been like an inspiration. Like you just in art in general. I remember trying to like copy like the style and like how he did that and how he it's just like it's a very detailed cover and it's like just look like there's put in a lot of work for that. But yeah, that's my favorite hip hop cover for sure. And then like from there you have like all the Bill Sienkiewicz covers, man, that he did.
Can I say one of my favorite all-time like moments I think in life was attending New York Comic Con in 2023, and I sat in on a panel that was about like I think it was about the Marvel hip hop covers, but Sanford Green was on the panel, Rob Markman was on the panel, Bill Sienkiewicz was on the panel, and I am drawing a blank on the other two gentlemen that were on the panel. But it blew my mind how ingrained Bill Sienkiewicz has been in hip hop, from like the EPMD covers. He did a cover for a T.I. album. Like it was so eye-opening to like also hear Bill Sienkiewicz just be a cool ass dude. He's like, yeah, I was about this life and stuff. I was into it.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Like, yeah, that blew my mind too when I found out about a lot of that. But yeah, I got all those records. I made sure to collect his run uh to one day hopefully get them signed.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, that EPMD cover is dope, and obviously the Bobby Digital, and I got the Kid Cudi Man on the
Yeah,
Moon.
Man on the Moon. That was Bill
Yeah, it's
Sienkiewicz too. Oh my God, I completely
yeah,
forgot about that. Wow,
yeah,
my man has been around. I forgot. That's right. That
yeah.
was one of them. So, okay, if you had a chance to do another hip hop cover, what would you do?
Man, it's like those favorite albums. I would love to do something with Nas. Yeah, Nas or Mobb Deep.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay, that sounds cool. Yeah, after this, I'm probably gonna listen to Enter the Stage just so I could hear "Buck 'Em Down" one more time.
man, that album was just how that album started.
Production is so clean too.
Those
Okay,
intros back in the days were just crazy.
all right. I got one more. I got one more hip hop question, and then Mike, I will let you be. But I want to know what comes to mind when I say this name here. What comes to mind when I say Dirty Defiant Tribe?
That's a deep dive, bro. That is the original breaking crew. That my original breaking crew with like, um, yeah, man. That was like my life since I would say 1999 is how that crew started, and still to this day, those are my homies, man. And we're all doing different things outside of b-boying. Like my boy Heis, um, owns one of the biggest graffiti shop in Toronto. It's like pretty much a hip hop hub. Sells like really cool collector toys. So if you want your Dilla toys and your Madlib toys and Doom
Good to
toys,
know.
but if you ever visit Toronto, you got to check out Collective. My boy Q Rock, he's still b-boying to this day and MCing and putting on albums, and yeah, man, like it's yeah. So that's the crew, and I still rep it. Yeah.
So I gotta give a very good friend of mine a shout out for actually putting me on to the Dirty Defiant Tribe. And really quick, some folks might not know listening that your handle on Instagram and a lot of your online handle, Deadly Mike, was
Mm.
your b-boy nickname, right?
That's my b-boy nickname, and I've always I keep it because like I like to keep that name because I feel like breaking like saved my life in a way. Like from just it just taught me like that the craziest work ethic that like after b-boying anything's possible, man. Because back then we were the way it's kind of like comics. There was no school for to learn this craft. Like, you know, you had to just find it. And comics is the same thing. There is certain schools, but it was very limited. So you pretty much going home and you're just finding ways to make this thing happen. You know what I mean? You're like trying to make it work. Maybe it's not like the foundations that you're supposed to be learning, but you're just looking at a comic, you're trying to make that comic work. You're copying whatever you got to copy. You're just working. You're grinding towards that, just searching. Same as b-boying. B-boying, you're just searching. You're finding like that one guy that could do windmill, and you're like, just teach me how to do a windmill. Maybe you don't find him, so you're just going and slow motioning uh like a video clip, like a 1 second video clip just to figure this thing out. So like it taught me like that culture like just taught me to figure out ways to learn it if you really want it, you know. And then, you know, we flourished in like I flourished in breaking, and after that I was like it just gave me that kind of like gift of like anything is possible, man. If I could do it with this, then like anything else I take up, it's gonna happen. It just
Yeah.
takes years of 10,000
Dedication and
hours
practice.
of craft, you know. Yeah.
That's awesome to hear. I want to give a big shout out to my homeboy DJ B Ryan, who is a super talented DJ, but he travels the world like DJing a bunch of b-boy events and competitions. He's a established b-boy himself. And when we were supposed to do this interview, 2 years ago, I think I had posted something or we got to conversing, and he was like, "Yo, you interviewing Mike the Mundo? Do you know anything about his b-boy background?" And I'm like, "No, like fill me in." And he sent me a clip off YouTube. I can send it to you too, but a clip of you like b-boying, and he had shared a couple words, He said, speaking about you, he said, he's from a time when breaking was super raw. A lot of the cats from Toronto are highly regarded even now. So he was like one of those best kept secret type of guys. But yeah, he's definitely an official b-boy, not just someone that happened to be there during that time. He's official. So yeah, B Ryan like kind of hit me on to
It's
like how
crazy.
important like that Dirty Defiant Tribe crew is. And really quick, I don't think I had a chance to ask, but how did you get into b-boying? What was like the genesis of that?
Oh man, like grade 7, I remember. It's just I had a cousin, same age as me, but he was always exposed to like whatever's new. He had an older sister, and I guess he was like just exposed to all of that stuff. So like hip hop, like you know, I learned from my cousin. Like he just come home with singles, and he'd come home with like I remember on his birthday, like his birthday party, he got Mobb Deep, like the album, like the infamous album. Bro, I think I was like
Ah, that's a good,
11
yeah.
or 10 or 12, and like listening to Mobb Deep at the time, I was like fucking scared to death. But
Yeah.
like, but it sounded so nice, like the melodies and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I learned from my cousin because like every fam jam he'd come back and be like, "Yo, I'm doing graffiti right now." Okay, cool. Like I want to do graffiti, and then he'll come and be like, he had turntables, so we're all like working on turntables. And then like yeah, he would start breakdancing, like b-boying, and like we'd start getting our cardboard and like dressing up our cardboard and this and that. And eventually I just took it serious. Like I was like, well, I'm gonna keep breaking. So that's how I got into it.
Wow.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome, man. Mike, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm sure that when I hit end, I will have 20 other hip hop related questions to ask you. But I'm going to wrap up this interview and this conversation with one more question, and this goes out to all of the aspiring artists out there that are listening that want to become, the next Mike the Mundo, to have a career like yours. If you could go back in time, and I think that, this is maybe a good question considering the timing that you've had the opportunity to go back through, all of your earlier work, your sketches, and you're doing this exercise of like picking out, your artwork that's going to end up in the book. What would you tell your younger self, who was trying to break in the industry at the time? Like, knowing what you know now, is there a piece of advice that you could give to your younger self or an aspiring artist listening right now that would go a long way in helping them, achieve their dreams?
Hmm. Well, I definitely wouldn't tell him how long it took because I think I would have gave up.
Yeah, you're kind of a unicorn in that regard.
Yeah, it's just like, sometimes you like I look back now at like how long, like what I've gone through, and like just the amount of work it takes to like be an artist, like to be successful, and all the time you put into it. And I'm like, man, if I knew how long it would take, would I actually like keep working at it, or would I just give up right there? So I think for me, like what I would tell them is just to keep working and just like enjoy the moment of whatever you're going through, whether it's bad or good. Just enjoy the journey, because eventually you're gonna get there as long as you work your ass off. You're a nice guy, you know what I mean? Like you're not an asshole, you treat people right, and you stick to your heart, like you stick to your guns, like what you believe in. Um, Eventually you'll get there. But like as you're going there, it's gonna be crazy. It's like you have to have the passion for sure. You have to love what you do, and just enjoy the moments that like that journey that you go through. Because for me, like I think I wish I could just go back and like kind of like be in a moment sometimes
Yeah, take it
with
in.
like certain things, because you're so focused on the goal that you forget that there's just things around it, like the people that are around you, and like the cool things that are happening. Sometimes
What
you have that tunnel vision.
what moment would you go back, like, professionally speaking? What moment would you go back to like soak it in more?
Just working on that first X-Men cover, or working on that first and I think I did enjoy the moment of like working on that first comic book. But then when you get into like the zone of things, and you're just like when you're just constantly on the grind with deadlines, it's hard to just sit there and be like, oh my God, I'm like drawing Psylocke right now, you know, like,
You got shit
or
to
like,
do. Yeah. You got
or like,
deadlines to
holy
meet.
shit, like just give me 1 sec. Let me take a step back. I'm working on my first Wolverine cover. Like, how crazy is that? But like it's hard to like even react to it. So a lot of times it's like it takes like years after that where you look back and you're like, holy shit, I drew a lot of Wolverine, or I drew a lot of Spider-Man books, and then you got to think back, like you almost have to think back to your childhood. It's like, oh shit, like we were, what like gets me in a moment is sometimes I'll be talking to my brother. Like the other day I was talking to my brother and we were talking about the books that we used to buy, because I used to only get X-Men books. My dad was like, basically like, you guys can only choose a book every new comic book day. Like it wasn't like a stack that we could grab. It's just you choose one book and you read it. So mine was X-Men. My brother was more like, he was going for like the holograms and like the chrome covers and stuff like that.
The
And I
shiny
remember
stuff.
him bringing up the Spider-Man hologram covers. And I'm like, fuck, man, like that brought me back, because I was like, shit, like, and then now, like I've done, a whole handful of Spider-Man books, and I was like, that's crazy. It feels surreal sometimes that like I had the opportunity to be able to do these things, or be that one artist to kind of bless that one title a month.
Yeah. I mean, well said. And as a a fan since day one, I'm very happy to have you in the industry and doing what you do. And I think with that being said, ladies and gents, this is your Short Box Podcast, and we just finished talking to Mike Del Mundo about his life, career, and his new book, The Marvel Art of Mike Del Mundo. You can pick it up from, I'm sorry, you can't pick it up from your local comic shops just yet. The Kickstarter campaign goes live by the time you're hearing this episode, but just in case, it goes live August 12th. It should run for a month. I'll have links to the campaign in the show notes. You can back it on Kickstarter. I believe you can also back it on BackerKit. But I'm going to have a link to Mike's Substack in the show notes as well, which is worth a follow, by the way. All right. It's free to follow along. There's some great posts that get posted there as well. So if you're into behind the scenes stuff, process, things like that, I'll have links to all of that stuff in the show notes. You don't want to miss getting this Marvel Art of Mike Del Mundo book. All right. That's all I'm going to say at that point. So yeah, do yourselves a favor, back the Kickstarter, follow Mike on social media. And I think, Mike, I got one more bonus question. Any parting words or shameless plugs before we wrap up?
Oh man, just really hope you guys coming back that art book, man. That's like 15 years of grind and love. And man, I'm super excited for that book to come out. We've been trying to make, me and Jay have been trying to make that book forever. And from the blessings of Clover Press and Hank, we're able to do it. So real excited for you guys to just get that book, man. And
there we go.
Please back it.
There we go. Support the book. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I'll catch you guys around, right? Peace.
Peace.